Now let's look at the datasets options that is available within the OFAdmin Batch Manager. So once you select the dataset option, it shows some of the information like catalog and the dataset name. As in mainframe, you can define different catalogs, including the master catalog and the user catalogs. So in this case, I'm choosing the master catalog, and here I'm searching for all the datasets that are present as part of the catalog. And once you hit the search button, you can see it shows the various results. It shows the dataset name, and it lists all the volumes that have been currently the dataset is present in. Default meaning like the default volume. It also says if the VSAM file is a non-VSAM or a VSAM file, and if it is a VSAM file, what type of VSAM file it is. In this case, it's a KSDS, key sequential dataset. And in case of non-VSAM, it also explains what kind of non-VSAM dataset it is. STS means sequential dataset. And once you sort based on the name, you can also see this is a different type of entry which is called PDS. So you have the user labs, proc labs, and the JCL labs that are PDS, which can have multiple members. And you can also select a particular PDS, and then it lists the different members that are part of the PDS. So now let's look at the dataset that was created in the prior job that we used. So if you remember, this is the extract was the sequential file that was the output of step 20, and we copied the same file to the VSAM file in step 40. Right? Once you select a particular dataset, it shows some of the key information like the dataset name, the date on which the file was created, the volume on which the file is located, and PSS physical sequential. And you can look at the space parameters, and it also lists the last access time and the owner who created it, and it says it's a fixed block with record length 200. And you can also see the current dataset size, which is 3000, meaning like it has 15 records. So even without looking at the dataset, you can figure out how many records are present in that particular file. So here I'm selecting the dataset and I'm saying view, and it opens the dataset, and you can see the 15 records that are present. Basically, it has some key information like the employee ID, first name, last name, and address. And the advantage in OFAdmin is it's not only used for looking at the sequential files, but you can also look at the VSAM files. So in this case, I'm selecting a VSAM file, and you can see it's located in the default volume as well, and it's a KSDS. And the key is the first 6 bytes, that's the employee ID. So I'm selecting this VSAM file and I'm saying view. And again, it opens the VSAM file as well. So you can see the 15 records. And since the output of step 20 was copied to step 40, a physical sequential file was copied to VSAM, the data looks the same. In OpenFrame, there are various options for viewing or editing the datasets. The options are, you can look at the graphical interface like OFAdmin for viewing and editing the datasets, or you can use the command line options that I'm going to show, and as well as you can use any of your favorite text editors like Notepad++ or TextPad for editing the datasets. Since we already looked at the graphical interface, let's go ahead and take a look at the command line option. So the command line option for looking at the dataset is dsview, and type the dataset name that you would like to view and press enter. So it opens the file, and if you're familiar with the VI commands, you'll be able to use them in this particular interface. For example, if I want to go to line 10, I can browse to line 10 and make any changes. So DSView is particularly helpful for the users who have the experience on the Unix or Linux platforms. But most of the mainframe developers has experience with the SPF panels, and to help those developers, OpenFrame provides an option called SPF edit, and you can type the dataset name, and it opens a dataset, the look and interface looks very close to the mainframe. And you can also use the options on mainframe, like for example, you can turn on the hex value, saying by hex on, and we can look at the hex values here for each and every byte. You can either edit the ASCII value or you can edit the hex value. For example, here I'm trying to change this hex value from 20, that is space, to 40, and I'm changing it back. And here I'm changing the text. I changed the first name John to Manoj, and I'm saying F3. Then it provides an option. You want to save? Yes. And you can see the notification that this dataset has been saved. You can go ahead and take a look at the dataset again. So you can see the change has been reflected. And now let's look at the third option, that is using the third-party text editor. I'm going to use a Notepad++. So one thing you need to note in OpenFrame is, as in mainframe, the data in a file or dataset is stored as a block of data. You don't have line delimiters stored in between the records. So you can't directly edit the dataset if you don't have the line delimiters using the text editors. Hence, you need to add this line delimiters, and OpenFrame provides an option for adding the line delimiters. You can select the dataset and it provides an option called load. Basically, that adds a line delimiter at the end of each record. And load and force load does the same thing. Force load, what it does is if the dataset was already loaded into a particular location and you want to override it, you can use the force load. So here I'm using the force load option, and it gives a notification saying that in this particular location it has extracted the dataset and which has the line delimiters. Now I'm going to use a software called WinSAP. I'm going to delete the previous file, and then I'm going to refresh the file and look at the timestamp which was created now recently, and then download this file. And once you download the file, basically what you're doing is you're copying the file from the Linux server to your Windows desktop environment. And once you have the file, you can use your favorite text editor and select the file. In this case, I'm using Notepad++, and it again provides various options. For example, it provides options for doing looking at the hex values and changing the hex values. So this is how the hex view looks like. I'm turning it off again. So for example, here I want to change the first name back to, instead of John, let us say I'm going to change it as Johnny. Okay, so I'm saving this dataset now, and this change has been present on the Windows. You need to make this change propagate to the Linux server. So what you need to do is select the file and say upload, such that it updates the file on the Linux server. But remember, again, this is located at a temporary location. Now if you want to make any changes to the dataset, you need to select the dataset name and say save. When you press this button, what it does is it copies the file which is in the line delimiter format from the temporary location and imports back it to the default volume without the line delimiters. So I'm hitting save, and you can see the notification that the dataset is saved successfully. And let's go and look at the dataset. If the first name was being modified to Johnny, as you can see, the change is being reflected. And in this case, we used our text editor Notepad++ for making the change. We'll now look how OpenFrame can submit a batch job from a scheduler. As explained before, OpenFrame provides an interface module called TextRun, which stands for Tmaxed External Runner, that any scheduler can use to submit the batch job. For the purpose of demo, I'm using a third-party scheduler, and it can be any scheduler. As I mentioned, it can be Control-M or ActWorks or any other schedulers that are available in the market. And TextRun is the command that is used for submitting a batch job in OpenFrame. The parameters you need to pass are two. One is the JCL name, and the second parameter is the step name. So let's go ahead and start the demo. So here I'm using a third-party scheduler, and here you can see there are two jobs as part of a schedule. And if you look at job 1 here, DB extract is a job that we already submitted before and reviewed it. But in this case, what I'm doing is I'm submitting the second parameter, that's a restart step. So instead of submitting from step 10, I'm restarting the job from step 30, such that it does only the vSAM processing. And then there is another job. Here, like I'm not passing the second parameter, meaning I'm asking the job to submit starting from the step 1. So let's go ahead and execute the schedule. And here you can see it says this got submitted successfully. And you can see the job is running. So the DB extract, since it fetches only 15 rows, it has been done successfully. So let's select the logs for DB extract, look at the output, and fetch the output. So if you look at the output from the scheduler logs, you can see the job ID is 293, and this is the output from the sys message. You can look at the JCL that was being submitted and so on. So you can also look at the same job from the OF admin as well. So let's go and search the job. Here you can see the job is 293, and if you look at the job, like it started executing only from step 30 because we passed the restart parameter. And you can also see the other job that is still running. It's a little long running job and it's in the working condition. Here we saw two jobs that were submitted from a scheduler. One was actually a restart from a particular step, and the second job was running from the very beginning. So that's how OpenFrame integrates with the scheduler. This completes the demo for dataset editing and scheduler integration. Please watch the remaining videos for other topics.